May the words of the gospel just read come alive in our hearts, and may inside of them we find encouragement and life-giving spirit through God. That's the way it's supposed to work. And it is the way it does work when we open ourselves to the self that we are. What we're thinking about today is how it is we secure our life. How it is we secure our life, because the God with whom we walk, that lives within us, is in no way detached from us. We walk with God through Christ to secure our lives. The Luke reading that Reverend Jim just read finds Jesus sharing that day with thousands of people along the hillside. In fact, all Jesus' words and acts and life are all for the purpose of helping us see how it is our life is secured. Now, that's not what we probably have already thought about a lot this morning while we're brushing our teeth to get ready and deciding what we're going to wear. But that's what's building within us always. Whether or not we know it, that's something that is inside of us, that spark within our heart, that living spirit, always a part placed there by our Creator. No matter what we're doing and thinking about as we brush, swish, and spit, we're getting ready to come here. And whether it is our first time here or this is among the many that we frequent, no matter what, this is not an unusual place for us. It is a filling station. It's the way every week we come again to fuel up. The great thing about Easter, it's such a wondrous one time of the year that we are given many Easters every week, Sundays, to refuel, to fill up, and to walk forth, encouraging the lives of others as we feel that encouragement ourselves. Now, like those on the hillside that day, right now we're adding ourselves to those thousands. This is where we come to get our life secured true. It was right there in that crowd that some guy called out to Jesus, and he asked Jesus to resolve the family dispute he was having. I can't imagine, I don't know how far he had to walk to get to that hillside that people had shared the word Jesus was going to be teaching from. I have no idea how long he walked, and I certainly have no idea how early he thought he had to come to be enough out towards the front that he could tell Jesus what it was that Jesus needed to do for him that day. And what he told Jesus he wanted Jesus to do that day was to tell his older brother to give him his part of the inheritance. That's what he wanted. The eldest son, he already knew, he did not ask Jesus to give me more than he's planning to give me. He did not ask him that. The younger brother understood that the oldest son had such responsibility to maintain the family's livelihood and to manage the life of not only the family, but his representative part in the community itself. He understood why it was that the elder brother always got double portion of the inheritance, and he wasn't asking for more than he was supposed to be getting, his single portion. Well, it does seem anyway kind of an inopportune time to be bringing that up. But we know that rabbis have long, at this time, played a crucial role in resolving legal disputes. So from the crowd guy says, my brother needs to share my portion of the inheritance with me. Tell him to do so. And Jesus doesn't even acknowledge the request. Jesus doesn't even acknowledge the man as we heard the story read, but we do know what Jesus did. Jesus told a story. Jesus told the story of a farmer, a landowner, a breeder of cattle and goats and sheep. He told the story of a landowner that had had a really lucky year. He must have been also very good at what he did. He knew how to manage wealth, and he hired a lot of hired hands from the community, and to top it all off, he was just darn lucky at his work. But he had a problem. It was a happy problem, but it was a big problem nonetheless. What was he going to do this year with this bumper crop that he had on his hands now? So Barn Guy, really perplexed, says, "What am I going to do with all of this grain? How is it I can manage my wealth?" But then he knows. But then he realizes, he comes up with the answer to his problem. I know what my problem is, and I know how I will solve it. My barns are just too small for all this growth. I will pull them down, and I will build myself. I will call in crews of builders from the community, and we will build myself lots of big, beautiful barns. Then I can store my grain, and I can keep all of it in my barns, and I can keep all of the rest of my goods within the barn, too. There will be plenty of room. And then when that's all done, I'll say to my soul, "Soul, now we have ample goods laid up for many years. Now we can just drink, eat, relax, and be merry." So he had all of his old barns torn down, and he built big, beautiful barns. That's exactly what Barn Guy did in the story Jesus told to crowd guy, who was disgusted about his brother. Now, Jesus' story doesn't say much more than that. It's a short passage after all. But it brings up, I think, for us a question. The question, what's wrong with this picture? What's wrong begs the question, to whom did Barn Guy go with his problem? Where did he go to help work out his solution? To whom did he consult? With whom did he check in? We just heard Jesus' story, and we know that Barn Guy only talked to himself. He asked himself, "Self, what should I do?" And self answered back, "Just tear down your barns and build yourself big, beautiful barns and store up all your grain and everything else you have in them that you don't need in your house." And then Barn Guy congratulated himself for his idea and for the money he was going to make this year and all the coming years in his big, beautiful barns. Yes, he would keep it going and growing, and he'd spend the whole rest of his life enjoying it. Hearing Barn Guy's self-congratulations, it's pretty easy to see where Barn Guy's security lies. How is it our life is secure? It's pretty easy to see where he figured his answer was. It's pretty easy to see where he put his heart, and it's pretty easy to see how it stifles his soul. Pretty easy to see what Barn Guy counts on for the security of his life, and we say yes, he counts on himself. Maybe I shouldn't be so hard on Barn Guy, though. He figured he'd worked hard and planned a lot and done a good job, and he'd hired a lot of people from the community to work for him. He paid them, and understanding the money of that day, paid them pretty well. He kept crops growing and livestock healthy, and his barns filled up year after year, and he's probably thinking, too, this is not just for me, this is for my children, and it's for my children's children and their future lives, and their children too. They're his responsibility after all. They're his family. The thing is, Jesus always has ringing in our mind some other words. Some other words in this case uttered by Mother Teresa, who said, "The problem of the world is that we draw the circle of our family too small, too small." And the wealthy landowner who only considered consulting with himself and coming up the best answer financially for himself limited the extent of the reach of his care and his love and his very life. You know, there were other ways he could have figured this out. He could have done when he was consulting, when he was inquiring, when he was checking in. He could have done it with God too. And not only God, but he could have talked to other people in the community, other leaders of the community, people who knew the community from other kinds of directions. He could have called a bunch of people together in his own bishop's committee. And he could have then said, what can we do community-wise? What can we do economically to get the money from my grain sold in such a way that it helps the economy of our community? How can we create more jobs by using it wisely? And how can we get more people fed and building more homes for the unhomed, for we have many? Consulting with God and with others around him about the best way to handle his good fortune, could have done his part in somehow shifting the world. I should tell him, though, that I understand. It's pretty easy to just consult with yourself when you've gotten yourself into a fix, even a good fix like the one he was in, and then yourself into a fix, and whatever you figure out, you live with the aftermath. Us and all of us about whom we care are called to serve and love and care about all people, no exceptions. And that gets so easy to forget. So easy to forget. And Barn Guy, on his day, like some of mine, forgot it too. So what does God do every time we forget? Every time that we maybe would say fall short somehow, what does God do then? I'll tell you what God does every time for you and for me and for us all. What God does is say, okay, this is where we've gotten to now. Now let's see what together we can do next. No matter who we forgot to check with and who we left out of our consulting, no matter, God is ready always to say, where can we go together now? It's easy to forget that whole package of life that we're part of, that package of God and me and others. God's saying to us all, no matter where you are right now, you, me, and inviting in others are ready to go again. It's not that hard to think broader and wider and more whole, but sometimes, all by myself, all by ourselves, we get stuck. And that's one of the ways the church shows up. Christ helps us refocus and makes us and others more whole. For we never have to carry the load ourselves. We are never walking alone. Now, I don't know why Crowd Guy or Barn Guy thought they had to carry it all by themselves. I don't know why they thought that at that moment it just felt like they were living all alone, but I can tell you what I noticed about them when Reverend Jim read the words of the gospel. You can check it later. I noticed their pronouns. Think about them. It's a short scripture, but if you look at it, just about every 5 words has a pronoun in it. And every one of Crowd Guy's pronouns, wanting his inheritance, and barn guy's pronouns, wanting to make a mint from his harvest yield. Every one of them are personal pronouns like I and me and my and mine. They jump in to their thought process and they jump out of that scriptures. It's really easy to get into a pronoun problem. I'll tell you why I am especially tuned to this pronoun problem. The reason is because at one of the churches I served, I'd been reading books by Dr. Maladon Patrice Sommet, my favorite one, of Water and the Spirit. He's from West Africa, the late Dr. Sommet. And he was teaching for the summer at a university in the States. And some of us found out that he was available to speak at our churches. I checked my calendar and opened it up for him, and he chose one to be with us on Sunday morning. When that Sunday came around, I cannot tell you how excited I was, knowing that I was just going to be like up front with Dr. Sommet. During his sermon, almost offhandedly, as he was talking, he said, "Now my father at our village in West Africa only has one wife. But most of the people in the village, and the custom for a long time, has certainly been multiple wives for every man. My father only has one wife. I only have one wife too, and let me tell you, it's plenty enough." And then we all laughed just the way you are laughing now. Well, after church, I had a further privilege. His next speaking engagement was Evansville, and so my job was to drive him down to Evansville for that evening service and to take him out to lunch. The Presbyterians got to the cafeteria before we did, so we were in a long line to go through the cafeteria line. And while we were going through the cafeteria line, I mentioned to him that what he had said almost offhandedly certainly was not even near the points he was making, but the fact that his West African village had multiple wives for most of the men. I said to him, "I know you know how foreign that sounds to us. We have sometimes multiple wives, but not at the same time." Husbands too, that's me. "You know how foreign that seems to us, and I've really always wondered, but I've never had anybody I thought I could talk to about it. I wonder what the women think about that. I wonder how that feels to them. Do you think you could help me with this perspective?" And Dr. Sommet said, "Yvonne, I think I might be able to. It might help you to understand if you consider that the culture of my origin in West Africa has no pronouns for I, me, my, or mine. We have pronouns, but all of our pronouns throughout the history of our language are for we, our, ours, and us. And when we talk about family, we speak about our mother and our other mothers. We talk about our sister and our other sisters. We even talk about our family and our other families in the community of our village. All our pronouns include everybody. And Yvonne, when you start with all people, it shifts. It shifts what it means to live your life. Now, the Yvonne you know is seldom speechless. But talking with Dr. Sommet that day, I never listened more or said less. I did, though, have lunch with him and take one more shot at understanding. Right before dessert was served, I said, I do have one more question. You told me about your pronouns. It's quite a profound difference, and I've been letting that settle in and thinking about how through generations of history that must change a lot. But I do have a question. Does it work? I mean, does having that through all of those generations of history, does it somehow make people matter differently? Does it show up in everybody's everyday life and care of one another, individually and in groups? Do your pronouns work? And he said to me, do yours? A good day with Dr. Somé. Mother Teresa says the problem of the world is that we draw our circle of family too small. We can easily draw the circle of our help too small, too. And so that's why you hear this church working in community outreach and in service in literally dozens of ways. But not just us. That is the call of Christ, and it shows up. It shows up with many, many congregations. I virtually say almost all in their own way. The shift toward greater value and trusting ourselves to live with others, with ourselves, and with God, being our guide, planning our walk with us, and with a gulp and a sigh and a prayer following is the gift into which we are called. Ram Dass' words are true. We are all just walking each other home. And those others include all others and include us too. Us all accepting and honoring and celebrating. Us all accompanying, acknowledging, and allowing. Us all encouraging and assisting so that you and we and they and all the others are able to be and live as we are called and as we are already created to be together through God. For this is where our teacher Christ calls us, right here on the hillside of our hearts, how it is we secure our lives. We assist others to secure theirs, and we live together through God.